What would you do if a nosy HOA Karen pointed a gun at your wife, not realizing she was a Secret Service commander for the President of the United States? Before we get into this wild story, tell me which country you're watching from. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more unbelievable HOA and Karen stories every week. It started like any other quiet afternoon in our neighborhood, the kind of gated community where people act polite in public but gossip like wildfire behind closed doors. My wife and I had just moved in a few months earlier after she transferred from D.C. to take on a quieter federal assignment. Most people thought she worked in logistics, but in truth, she commanded a detail that protected some of the highest-ranking officials in the country. We wanted peace, privacy, maybe a little normalcy. But the HOA president, a woman everyone called Karen, had other plans. She had built her identity around power, using the HOA like her personal kingdom. From fining kids for chalk drawings to banning trucks from driveways, she had rules for everything and no respect for anyone. The day things went off the rails began with a letter. Karen claimed our security cameras violated community aesthetic standards. My wife had installed them after spotting people snooping near our property line, but Karen insisted they had to come down immediately or we'd face daily fines. We ignored her. The next week, Karen started following my wife whenever she went jogging. Then, late one evening, she came pounding on our door. My wife didn't answer. She just watched silently through the peephole as Karen screamed about unauthorized surveillance equipment and suspicious activity. That night, I knew it wasn't just about rules anymore. Karen wanted control, and she wasn't above intimidation. Things escalated fast. One morning, I woke to find Karen standing in our driveway, snapping photos of our vehicles. She called out to the HOA security team, demanding they fine us for illegal parking. We didn't even park on the street. It was pure harassment. My wife tried to de-escalate, walking out calmly with her badge visible on her jogging vest, not her Secret Service one, but something that at least looked official. She told Karen she had no right to be on federal property. That word, federal, set Karen off like a match to gasoline. Within seconds, she was shouting that we were spies and government plants. Her paranoia kicked into full gear. She claimed she'd call the sheriff, then the governor, then whoever she thought would get rid of us. But she didn't call anyone. She came back the next morning with a small pistol in her hand. It was surreal, the kind of thing you only see on the news. Karen stood at the end of our driveway, shaking, yelling for my wife to leave this community. She thought she was the law. My wife, unarmed, raised her hand slowly and started speaking in the calm, measured tone I'd only ever heard her use during tense security briefings. She wasn't afraid. She was assessing, watching Karen's hand, watching her stance. Before I could even get to the door, I saw a black SUV turn the corner, then another, and another. My wife had quietly triggered her emergency beacon, a secure signal only accessible to her agency. Within minutes, a full tactical response team rolled into our quiet suburban cul-de-sac. Karen froze, staring as men in suits and tactical gear surrounded her, shouting orders. The transformation from neighborhood drama to federal incident happened in seconds. Neighbors peeked through their blinds as officers secured Karen's weapon and placed her in handcuffs. No one could believe what they were seeing. The same woman who once fined people for leaving trash cans out an hour too long was now being loaded into a police cruiser by federal agents. As the commotion settled, one of the agents quietly briefed the local sheriff. My wife stood nearby, expressionless, her professional composure intact. She didn't even flinch when Karen started screaming that it was all a setup and that she was defending her rights. The truth came out quickly. Karen had a record of previous complaints, minor altercations, aggressive confrontations, and reports of her flashing her weapon at contractors. She had managed to avoid serious consequences, but pointing a gun at a federal officer, especially one assigned to the President's Protective Service, was something entirely different. Within hours, she was booked, processed, and charged with multiple felonies. The HOA board scrambled to distance themselves. They held an emergency meeting that night, trying to salvage their reputation. They sent out a statement claiming they were shocked and saddened by Karen's actions and that she'd been relieved of all HOA duties effective immediately. But it was too late. The neighborhood had seen everything. People who once whispered about us now came forward to apologize, bringing flowers, baked goods, and excuses. They claimed they never really liked Karen anyway. But the damage was done. My wife's cover was blown, our quiet life shattered, and the once elite community now carried a federal investigation on its record. Over the next few weeks, unmarked vehicles occasionally patrolled the area, not because of ongoing threats, but because word had spread through certain federal channels. No one wanted another incident in the neighborhood where a Secret Service commander had nearly been shot by an HOA president. The HOA dissolved within 3 months. Insurance rates skyrocketed, property values tanked, and residents quietly sold their homes. The developer eventually reclaimed most of the lots and rebranded the area under a new name, hoping to bury the scandal. As for us, we sold the house, packed up, and left. My wife was transferred back to Washington where her skills were better appreciated, far from nosy neighbors with inflated egos and a false sense of power. I'll never forget watching Karen's face when she realized who she'd pulled a gun on. It wasn't just fear. It was embarrassment. For years, she'd bullied her neighbors, acted untouchable, and used her HOA badge like a weapon. But that day, she learned what real authority looked like, and it came wearing a Secret Service pin. So next time you hear about an HOA president acting like they run the world, remember the story. Sometimes the person they're messing with isn't just another homeowner. Sometimes they're someone who protects the most powerful people in the country. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more unbelievable HOA and Karen stories every week.